Alright, welcome back everybody to the 5th week. Yes, so as you know, I'm going to talk a little bit about how I started writing, how I got into writing, why I got into writing, kind of thing. And I have a fun little story of mine that you'll get to know more about in a little bit here. What's there to say about how I got into writing? I guess really I owe it to the fact that my brothers and my mom always read to us when we were little, like all the time. And I'm just amazed, like, with these books, like paper with these like words on them and everything, that, you know, like they were just so cool that people could like write these stories about these different worlds and like create all this like amazing stuff. And so I was just kind of like, well, I want to do that. I actually, like, before I could even read, I would find like the biggest, wordiest books in our house and like carry them around with me and pretend I could read them, all while like making up my own stories in my head. And I specifically remember one time I was carrying around a dictionary, pretending to read it, just like it was a novel or something. So that was fun. And also, like, according to my parents and family members and stuff, like, ever since I was able to talk, pretty much, I would, like, tell stories, and, basically I would say, once upon a time, and then just, like, a bunch of gibberish, and then say, the end. And, also, when I was little, I had an imaginary friend named Lean, and, not just, like, you know, most kids have, oh, an imaginary friend, whatever. My imaginary friend had friends, had family, had pets, had a car, had a boyfriend. Her boyfriend owned, like, a barn and raised horses, and, like, I had all this crazy stuff. And I would always tell stories about her to my family. Somewhere along the line, I was like, hey, you know, there are people out there who, like, write stories and stuff. I should write stuff down. So, yeah, I did. I just started writing. You can tell, like, a lot of stuff that I wrote when I was younger. Actually, you can still tell now. I have, like, writer's ADD. I can't, like, focus on one thing. My brain is, like, going crazy doing, like, thinking of a million different stories at a time. But especially when I was younger and didn't really, like, have the ability to focus on just one thing, my stories are just crazy everywhere. But that was just, I just always had these ideas, like, just running through my brain. I can't even, like, remember a specific time, like, where it started. I just, for as long as I can remember. And, so, like, before I could actually write, I would, dictate stories to people, and, like, my parents and stuff, have them write for me, until I was able to write for myself. But yes, I have a little, I was trying to find something, like one of my very first stories I wrote, like, I have, like, this, like Aaron was showing, like, something that, like, I published at the school, like, make your own, and I had one of those. I wish I could have found it, but I can't. I don't know where it is at the moment. But yeah, that one, like, really, like, one of my first actual complete stories. All I remember is about a dog and a cat who became friends, and yeah, again, cats, dogs. That is a big theme in my earlier writings, especially since my parents wouldn't let me have a pet when I was younger. So I did a lot of writing about that. I wrote about people who had all the pets that I wanted and couldn't have. So anyway, but the story, I did happen to find this. It is entitled Jane the Great and the Mystery of the Secret Mansion. And gosh, I probably wrote this about 4th or 5th grade. And I remember I had in my mind, like, I wanted to do this whole series of books about the character Jane the Great, who's like this detective. And yeah, I found out I can't really write mysteries. I'm terrible at it. This thing is kind of long to read the whole thing to you. So I'm just gonna kind of, like, read a little bits of it here and there, to give you an idea of something. Alright, so a little background. It's, there's like this mystery. They're like trying to figure out the story behind like these abandoned buildings in the town and like why nobody goes to them, and apparently they're in the middle of a forest, because that makes perfect sense. So Jane, of course, is the detective, and she goes to investigate, and yeah, so here's a little bit of that. The farther into the forest she went, the scarier it seemed. She also noticed it was getting darker. Jane saw something very shocking. It was the dark figure. Apparently she had met a dark figure the day before. Anyway, this time darker than before. "What do you seek from my forest?" the figure asked. The figure was a person. "Excuse me?" "I said, what do you seek from my forest?" "Oh, nothing. I didn't know it was your forest." "Well, you know it now." "What is your name?" "My name is Mac." Not only was the figure a person, it was a man. Mac seemed pretty friendly. "So, Mac, do you know your way around this forest pretty good?" "Yes, I'd give you a tour, but I don't have the time." "Oh, okay, bye." "Bye." Jane then left the forest. And then, so, basically it's, that was my dialogue, fun stuff. Okay, here's my favorite part, is the end. So this takes place after she just had a nightmare about, like, someone chasing all the animals out of the forest and, like, destroying the town. Alright, so Jane sat straight up on her bed. She was so relieved. It was all a dream. She ran to the phone to call Officer J, who's apparently, like, the only police officer in the town. So she ran to the phone to call Officer J. "Hello?" said Officer J. "Hi, Jay. You know how I've been going into the forest?" replied Jane. "Yeah." "Well, there's this guy trying to chase all of the animals out of the woods and into the town." "How do you know that?" "I heard him say that he was going to tear down one of those old buildings. Also, I just had a dream about it last night." "Then you've simply got to solve this mystery before it's too late." So that was that. Jane got into her car, tossed all her equipment in the back seat, and drove off to the animal shelter to adopt a dog to help her. Because in a crisis, that's obviously what you do. When she got there, she found the perfect dog. It was a husky named Bowser. After she got Bowser, she went straight toward the forest. She attached a leash to Bowser, pulled out a flashlight, and headed into the forest. She was not afraid, at least not until she saw it. Straight in front of her, Mac was repairing a robot. The robot had a suit on, just like the gentleman she saw yesterday. The pieces were starting to come together. Suddenly she was surrounded by wolves, and Mac walked closer, and Jane could make out a large dog standing next to him. The next thing she saw was Mac, his dog, in a very strange-looking room. She was inside the abandoned daycare center. That was where Mac lived. "Mac, do you run this center?" asked Jane. "Yes, I do," he replied. "Then why do you want it destroyed?" "I made that up. See, I run this center, but I don't want anyone to come here, so I try to drive people away by scaring them, or driving them away. Obviously it didn't work for you." "No, I guess not. Why don't you want anyone to come here?" "It's because of my dog, Godzilla. He doesn't like people around except for me." "No one will come, then why is it still a daycare center?" "I've been trying to get my dog to like people, but it never works. That's also why I live alone in the forest." That was it! That's why no one ever went into the forest. Mac always drove them away. Jane finally solved the mystery of the secret mansion. She hurried back to town to tell Officer J and the mayor. The end. So, yeah, isn't that fun? Sorry, that was kind of a long reading, but, again, I couldn't find any of, like, my shorter, earlier things, so, yeah. You could kind of tell in that last part, it's like I had these ideas and stuff in my head that I just, like, couldn't really articulate. You know, I think it's pretty good, considering I was, like, 4th or 5th grade when I wrote that. But it's because, like I said, I have that, like, writer's ADD. I have a really, really, really hard time focusing on just one story at one time. And, writing it, like, plotting it out from beginning to end. Because I get, like, sidetracked and crazy. I'm like, oh, this would be a good idea, but I have to throw that in here and do this and whatever. Obviously we'll get into more of that when I do my writing processes. But, yeah, so that's, my stories are all over the place, and, that's why I've never actually, I have trouble actually writing a whole story. With the exception of, like, these things that I wrote in, like, 5th grade. I've never completed a story. So yeah, thanks all for watching. Thanks for putting up with my crazy writing that I did as a little kid, and, hope you had fun. Hope you got a good laugh out of it like I do whenever I reread old stuff. So yeah. And have a good one. Take care. Go out there and do some writing. Yeah. I will see you all next week. Bye.